Patrick Mahomes is basically God playing quarterback.
Chiefs Kingdom
Live.
So on, hey, what's hot? Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Yeah, when it's grim, be the Grim Reaper and go get it.
It's Mahomes' house, and it is good. Woo! Arrowhead man.
The Lombardi Trophy has a red and gold reflection.
You gotta fight for your right to party.
Woo! Howdy, Chiefs Kingdom. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. It's Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thank you so much for joining us once again. While you're here, real quick, if you wouldn't mind, click or tap that like and click or tap that subscribe button. Helps the show out a lot. Don't forget, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell some Chiefs friends. Help spread the word. We'd sure appreciate it. Got a good show lined up for everybody tonight. All kinds of free agent signings and players on the move and staying at home. We're going to break it down. Obviously, the biggest news of the free agent period so far for the Chiefs anyway has been Stone Cold Chris Jones getting the bag, stay in Kansas City. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other Chiefs players staying here in the kingdom and moving elsewhere. Maybe talk about some activity with some of the other teams in the AFC and the NFL. It's been wild so far. Before we get into everything, Nick, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Except for my dumb ass didn't disconnect my hose from the faucet outside, and so I went to use it, and there's water pouring into my basement. So got to pay for this guy to cut out my ceiling to do that, and now I need to replace the wall. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
Doing real well. Looks like we got some storms rolling in here through the heart of Chiefs Kingdom, and so hopefully the internet, although it's fiber optic, so I don't really usually have a problem with the storms, but I have been having some microphone, some audio issues, so if I cut out, we might have to meddle with that here, but hopefully we're good. It's been working here recently when we were talking here and before we went live, so it's good to see everybody here watching in the chat. Looks like Big Doug is checking in from Oklahoma. Good to see you. I'm sure that means Laney and Freddie probably watching too. Hope you all are doing well. Make sure to leave us a question or drop a comment here in the chat. Always makes the show that much more fun. Let's just get into this news. Chris Jones signs the contract extension or a new contract or whatever you want to call it, however you want to look at it. People were saying, hey, Chris Jones is back with KC, and I was like, man, he never left, did he? It's one of those weird things, kind of like turn a phrase, but Chris Jones gets a healthy payday. I'm not going to pretend to be smart enough to understand what I read about the terms and the way that the money works and how much is guaranteed and not guaranteed. Most reports that I've read gave the impression he got $95 million guaranteed. So we're going to go with that. There's some team options and some other things that maybe Chiefs could get out earlier with less money. I saw some people say, well, actually, it could be $60 million if the Chiefs decide to do this. Let's just go with guaranteed $95 million. Gets the average there, 31, I want to say, or $32.6 million per year if he played all 5 years on the contract the way it was written. The guy earned the money. He's still in his prime here. I don't know if he makes it 5 years or not, but Nick, how happy are you that Chris Jones is staying, and what did you think about the deal? I know when we talked about it last week, you thought maybe you wouldn't go 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and we'll see if they go 4 or 5 years. I know that it's on the deal, but whether he plays the whole contract or not, we'll see. But I mean, I'm beyond happy to see it happen. I'm just as happy to see it happen now as opposed to after the start of free agency. I think that it shows that Brett Veach and the Chiefs also learned from last year's situation. Let's get it done. Let's get it locked up. Then we can focus on other key things. But I mean, this just means that the Chiefs are willing to invest, and they are pouring resources into the three-peat, right? It's not just Mahomes and Travis Kelce talking about it, right? The Chiefs are making it a priority to sign I've heard say the Mount Rushmore, right? Because it's like Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and Chris Jones have been the staples of this dynasty for the last several years. So yeah, it's a lot of money, but the salary cap also went up $30 million this year.
Yep.
So it seems like the Chiefs last year didn't sign him. I think measurably it didn't really go up that much from last year what he was asking. So I think it's a good signing. There were other teams that were gonna pay him that kind of money. Everybody sees what he can do in crucial moments in big games, and there's no replacement for that. So I'm happy. Chris, if it was like 94.8 million guaranteed, I hope you said, come on, man, just make it 95. But
match the jersey number.
I didn't know if that was too subtle, but yeah, just make it 95 for 95. So happy to have you, dude. You're going to retire a Chief, which is what you've been saying you were going to do. Great to see it, come to fruition. So,
Yep. Yeah. Guy, obviously, on top of just being a phenomenal player, he's the guy that has not been in any trouble off the field. He hasn't had issues. Obviously we don't know any of these guys, but if you had to wager, Chris Jones is just a good dude, right? And he's a good guy. And his cryptic tweets might rub some people the wrong way in the Chiefs game.
right.
I think it's just him having fun, to be honest. I don't think he's out there trying to gain leverage with the team or put them under any pressure, anything like that. It seems like he's just a good-natured, easygoing, fun guy. Teammates love him. Patrick Mahomes instantly retweeted the tweet or the post. I guess you reposted. It's X. It's not Twitter now, but about his contract getting signed with a bunch of smiley faces. The guy was the number one free agent on most people's boards. So the Chiefs start off the offseason after going back-to-back Super Bowl champions, re-signing the number one free agent on the market. Chris Jones, Nick, you think he makes it all 5 years or not?
It's hard to say. You see, look at it like where Von Miller is, and he may make it 5 years, but is that contract gonna stay, or are you gonna see maybe some restructuring in those final years? So we'll see. He's a hell of an athlete. By all accounts, it looks like he takes care of himself. So, I hope he does. But that's gonna be pushing it right up to the end there for a lineman, right? I mean, those guys are he's smashing his body into those offensive linemen every play over and over again. And you saw, it's on the offensive side of the ball. You saw what Jason Kelsey, though, what he went through and whether or not he was going to come back at, I think, 34 for this last year and playing that kind of longevity. And so it's really, I think it's like a pain management at that point, and like how much chronic pain are you willing to deal with, and whether or not he comes back, it may be kind of like Kelsey's deal where it's like, okay, so, how are things looking? We'll have Patrick Mahomes, so should be looking pretty damn good. But I think there's a lot of factors. So I think this is primarily looked at probably as a 3-year deal, where he's going to be getting kind of what we talked about, right? 3 years or around $32 million a year, something like that is what we were talking about last week. So, and then with the 4th and 5th year options for him and the team to decide what they're going to do. So what do you think? Do you think he's going to play all 5 years?
I think if he makes it to year 5, probably you're looking at a restructure, maybe a pay cut or something for Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Although the guy definitely could make it. He takes good care of his body from everything you can tell. He comes into camp in shape. The guy's a freak athlete. He's also a leader. You see these franchise episodes and you see the mic'd up online after these big games, and he's in there. What is he saying before the AFC Championship? It was like, let's kick this mother effing door in and get the F out of here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, gets the team fired up. Guys on the team like him. He's obviously a leader. In addition to being a badass player, and he's a top 2, 3, 4, 5 player on defense in the NFL. Well, where would you rank him?
Yeah, I would rank him number 1.
Yeah.
Because okay, so you probably have people, Micah Parsons or whoever. You could point to people that have more stats, maybe higher pressure percentages. How many people can you point to that have made the types of plays and the types of moments that he's made over the last 5 years? Maybe Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl, but that was one time. He's done it in 3 Super Bowls. He's done it in an AFC Championship game. So, did you watch the franchise yet? I know you say you hadn't.
Nope, have not had a chance to check that out yet. Depending on how late the show goes tonight, I might watch it before bedtime. But
yeah, there's a few things. I won't go heavy spoiler, but there's a few things at the end of that Super Bowl involving Chris Jones where you're like, wow, I didn't know. It involves people being tired at the end of the games, but he's a gamer. He's going to come in. He's going to give you everything he's got. He may not, be a force every play. I think that I don't want to say he takes plays off, but I think he picks and chooses moments where, and I think all of those guys do, right?
For sure.
High leverage situations. Let's just put it this way: with the Super Bowl on the line, you can pick one defensive player in the NFL that you think is going to make a play to win the game or save the game for you. Who are you picking?
Chris Jones.
Out of anybody in the NFL, right? I mean,
there might be some people that would pick like a Nick Bosa, but Nick Bosa, he bid on the fake run on the 4th down, right? That allowed the Chiefs to get the first. I mean, if he doesn't bite on the fake to Pacheco there, maybe he brings Patrick down. You can give him all the Defensive Player of the Year awards you want and all the accolades, but
he's a great player. It's not a knock.
Yeah, right. Definitely not a knock against him. It's just seems like when someone needs to rise up to the moment, Chris Jones is the guy that rises up to the occasion. And taking plays off, look, no one can go 100% on every play, especially on a defensive line and a guy at the tackle position or an edge player. Especially when you play as many snaps as he does. I know they rested him a little bit earlier in games this year, and some people are saying, how come he's not in the game in this point? But the Chiefs know when to have him in the game, and he knows when the team needs him. And he steps up and makes a play. So, Nico, you make a good point. We've talked about that too before. Defensive tackle position is one of the hardest to find an impact player like a Chris Jones. And that's just what makes him all that much more special. Congratulations, CJ. Love that he got the deal. Love that he's going to be staying here in Chiefs Kingdom. Looks like the chat's lively here. I saw Maria's showing up in here. Good to see you, Maria. Nico, obviously, we were just talking about him being in here. Good to see you, Nico. I'm going to get out there for that Chiefs-Browns game this fall, man. So make sure we got tickets. We'll have to get together and figure that thing out. So another player staying in Chiefs Kingdom, Drue Tranquill. He signs another deal. Man, that guy was the pickup of the offseason, right, last year, especially when you think about Nick Bolton and the time he missed and was limited with injury. Drue Tranquill, man, we were calling him AAA, right? Came to the Chiefs' rescue.
Right.
So funny.
When everybody else broke down.
When everybody else broke down and Chiefs needed someone to come bail him out, old Drue AAA Tranquil was there to answer the bell. Gets 3 years. He gets a pretty good payday, but not some massive record-breaking contract, which obviously you really can't do that when you just gave Chris Jones a record-breaking contract. But Drue Tranquill is going to be hanging out for a while. How excited are you that AAA is going to be back next year?
Oh, man. I love that dude. He just exemplifies everything you want in a football player for your team. He has impact. He seems like he's a smart player. He seems like a model citizen outside of football, and he seems like he truly like is in love with being a Chief, coming from the Chargers. I mean, it's probably just like giving a starving man a piece of bread, but it's just he just during the parade, right? Everybody's seen the clip of him just taking the microphone from the reporter when she's talking to him and just going after it. He just seems like a great personality. Chris Jones is the same way, right? He's like just got this kind of great personality about him. And so, and then that coupled with his play on the field, it's just a great signing. It's a great signing. It's a good value for the Chiefs at that position, I think. Like you said, he stepped in, and I'm sure you're going to get to some of the people that have left, some of the people that, are unfortunately have moved on to other teams. It's good to see that we keep Drue around for the next 3 years.
Yeah, you can't keep everybody. But Drue Tranquill, he came in and got Nico's comment here. Oh, took it down. Sorry. I've already eaten at Wendy's, Nico. So maybe you'll spring and get the large size or something. I guess super size would be McDonald's. But
so you get the chili sauce with the chili from Wendy's.
There you go, the special chili sauce.
Yeah.
No, I've never been to Ohio, so I am looking forward to making that trip out there. Hoping it's a September game instead of like December 21st or something and freezing ass cold out there in Cleveland. But I'm going to be there one way or the other. Couldn't be any colder than the Rice Bowl, right? 27 below. I still talk to people that are like, I can't believe you went to that game. Like,
oh, it's so cold.
Stupid. It was. It was freezing ass cold. I'm not going to lie and act like it wasn't cold, but back to Drue Tranquill, getting a little off track here. Yeah, man, it was just a guy that signed, and it was a name that you recognized, but maybe wasn't a guy that you really realized just how versatile and just how good of a player the guy is. When Nick Bolton was out, he was in there leading the team in tackles and pressuring the quarterback and batting down passes. I mean, he can go out and do some work in coverage. Very, very it's like the Swiss Army knife of linebackers, right? He can do a little bit of everything.
It's like Whit Merrifield for the Royals.
Yeah, that's a good comparison for the other local team here. Nick's screen's blinking in and out a lot on me right now. Maybe someone in the chat can let us know if that's just on our end or if that's coming across the stream. But yeah, the price is right. He's a guy that has been somewhere else and actually found greener pastures. They always say, oh, the grass ain't always greener. It was a lot greener here for Drue Tranquill. Would leave
instant Super Bowl win.
Yeah, let's see. One of the worst records in the AFC or win the Super Bowl. The guy, and like you said too, he's got leadership qualities. He's a guy that loves like you could tell when he's talking about Arrowhead and just how special it is to run out there playing for the Chiefs now and Chiefs Kingdom and being around town, everybody wearing red. He's like, this almost feels like, like your old local high school football team where everybody that you go to the gas station or the grocery store is wearing the gear. And he said it's just been a really, really good move for him. And not just from the football aspect and getting to play in the Super Bowl and get a ring, but just being a part of Chiefs Kingdom and being here in the community. And he's a guy that seems to really, really like it here. He's fit in seamlessly, come in and help this team win a Super Bowl. How many players did the Chargers sign and how much money did they spend bringing all these guys in to beat the Chiefs? And then they let him go and he comes to the Chiefs and helps them win another Super Bowl. To me, there's like an irony or poetic justice or whatever you want to call it about that. But very happy that Drue is staying in Chiefs Kingdom. Another guy that I saw right before we came on here, Nick, I don't know if you saw this or not, but defensive lineman Mike Pennel has re-signed with the team.
Hell yeah.
And love that guy, man. The dude's an unsung hero along that defensive line. Provides great depth. I mean, people talk about a guy being a dog. Like, that guy, not only is he a dog, he's like, if he's a dog, he's a junkyard dog. You know what I'm saying, man? That guy, he's mean and nasty and just a dude that, I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with any NFL defensive lineman, right? But you can tell that guy is a guy you really don't want to mess with. What do you think his role is on the team here coming up, and just how excited are you to see that Mike Pennel is going to stay with the Chiefs?
Yeah, he's one of, like you said, he's not a premier player that people probably outside of the Chiefs, unless they're more than just a casual fan, are going to know who he is. But Chiefs fans know who he is. He's made some key plays. He gets off of blocks and stuffs runs. I mean, he's just a fantastic player, and like you said, a great depth on the line there. Kind of opposite Chris Jones, and filling in for him when he's taking a breather. So it's just, the free agency moves that we've been making just make me feel really good about our team. You look at some of the teams like the Bills with their just mass exodus of players, or the Chargers. We were just talking about the Chargers. I hear they're still $25 million over the cap.
Yeah,
So, they're making decisions with their players. So,
exploring trade possibilities with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Yeah, well, no, Mike Williams, they let him go. He posted on Twitter earlier. He said, "Hey, I've been informed that I'm done."
I missed that.
Yeah, so he said,
Come on
please,
over to Steve's Kingdom.
yeah, please respect my privacy at this time.
Do you think Drue Tranquill texted him and was like, "Hey, dog,
hey, man,
come on over"?
Don't believe that F- on the ownership is badass over here.
Right.
Games. we don't blow it at the end. Yeah, so no, it's a great signing. It just, like I said, it shows that the Chiefs are prioritizing getting some of these guys locked up and doing it early so that they can know what they have to play with, right? So I don't know. Were you going to bring up? You saw that Mahomes restructured his deal, right?
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. It's going to clear, 20-something million, 21 or $22 million for the team. They're going to need money for draft picks, obviously. You can go out there on Twitter right now, and I want to say it was Charles Goldman put a list of players that aren't returning. They got a lot. They still got a lot of guys to replace and a lot of shoes to fill. Chris Jones, the interesting thing about his contract was his cap hit is not that much for this year, right?
$7 or $8 million.
Yeah, $7 or $8 million. What do we think that does for L'Jarius Sneed? He has not been traded. He's still got the franchise tag on him, so he's here as long as the Chiefs want him to be. You feel a little bit better that L'Jarius Sneed's on the team next year now, or you still feel about the same, that it's probably more likely not that he's gone?
Yeah, it's tough. I would say it didn't change how I felt. I think they're still probably going to prioritize a receiver. That's how I feel. I mean, if you got to pick, would you pick keeping L'Jarius Sneed or paying a B tier receiver?
Yeah, I don't know. I had to look and see who's out there. I know we talk about it a little bit later. Calvin Ridley's off the board. He was a guy that I thought might fit well with the Chiefs and with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You saw his last year in Atlanta. He was really, really good. Kind of a disappointment in Jacksonville, but I feel slightly better that L'Jarius Sneed could be back on this team. If I had to bet one way or the other, I'd bet that he would still be gone, but teams have shown interest in him, and the Chiefs, look, it's up to them, right? I mean, you got to offer what the Chiefs want to get him. There's going to be a healthy market for the guy, but there's been a lot of secondary players become free agents, more safeties, I guess, than corners. But I mean, I went from maybe thinking like a 20% chance of staying on the team to maybe like 25 or 30% chance of staying on the team. They're cap wizards, though, and if you can go ahead and convert money from this guy here, from salary to signing bonus, and you can save some money by getting rid of this guy and this guy, maybe they're going all in for the three-peat, right?
It feels that way. I was just about to ask what you thought. I mean, because now, they're kicking the can down the road on Chris Jones's contract.
Yeah.
And with Patrick's restructuring, I think his cap hit next year now is at over $60 million.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so you're looking at paying, almost $100 million just for those two players next year at that point. Now they can continue to kick the can down the road and restructure and split it out over 5 years, but it definitely feels like the Chiefs are not going to let the three-peat slide by and have, well, you let Chris Jones go, you didn't sign some of these guys, be the excuse as to why they didn't do something that no other team's been able to accomplish in history.
Yeah, I mean, so few teams have been in position to do the three-peat. No one's ever actually done it. Look, I mean, nothing wrong with kicking the can down the road if the road has no end, right? I mean, you just keep kicking it down the road, and the salary cap keeps going up and up and up.
As long as you have the cash to pay the players, right? You could keep converting stuff to bonus.
Yeah, Clark Hunt's shown that he'll pay, right? I mean, Andy Reid's redoing his deal to be the highest paid coach. They've got mega contract out there to Patrick Mahomes, mega contract out there to Chris Jones. I mean, they're paying money. You mentioned the F- thing on the ownership deal or whatever. That to me,
I don't believe that at all.
That's voted on by players, and you get a couple bad apples or guys that
you don't know who voted, right?
Right.
Everybody voted.
How many times have you had disgruntled employees that were just completely they got mad at you because they called into work all the time and were on their phone half the time when they were there, and you got on them. Oh, that guy's a jerk. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I don't buy too much into that. You see, especially when you see guys like Drue Tranquill and all these other guys in the medical staff. You hear the team and players constantly complimenting the medical staff and complimenting this and saying that it's a top-notch organization. So that's a little bit of a weird story. I don't even know if it is a story, right, about the Chiefs and Clark Hunt, but it's good to see John C. showing up in here in the chat. Good to see you, man. Hope you're
So I didn't see any other guesses in the chat last week. Did you get any guesses on Twitter?
I didn't see any.
Okay, so now that the Stone Cold Jones contract is done, I believe that John said that yesterday, right? So, and since he ran unopposed, right?
I guessed Friday.
You guessed Friday, but you can't win, unfortunately. John, the 40-ounce Super Bowl champions double wall insulated cup. It's going your way, buddy. Congratulations. Now,
Nice.
If anybody else did put a guess in the chat that they remember, let me know. But I didn't see any, so.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing any either. And I went over on X there on Twitter and looked, and I didn't see any. So I don't know. We're up to 90-something viewers here live. Last week we got up over 100. I think some of those might be bots or I don't know because
I'll take all the bots.
We'll take all the bots. I mean, it still counts as a view, but make sure to click like and subscribe if you're watching and this is your first time and you're one of the 95 people that's checked in and you are in fact a real person and not a bot. We'd sure appreciate it. Help spread the word. Unfortunately, not everybody can stay. Some people have to leave the party. Willie Gay, I think it was Lane or somebody in the chat.
Yeah.
So they were hating to see Willie Gay leave. He went to the Saints, like 1 year, $5 million. He's a guy that was a solid player for the Chiefs, not necessarily a superstar player. Don't know how much of maybe Drue Tranquill signing kind of takes his job, right? Drue Tranquill came in as a backup or as a guy that was competing for a job. Probably not quite as fast as Willie Gay. They probably don't have the speed that Willie has in his, but he's got the instincts and he's got the knowledge and he's still plenty fast enough to play there in that middle and that linebacker. Willie Gay won himself some Super Bowls here with Chiefs Kingdom. I'll always remember the play where he intercepted the Russell Wilson pass for the pick six to himself.
So awesome.
maybe the play of his career. What do you think about Willie Gay heading on to the Big Easy down there? Do you think that's a big loss for the Chiefs?
He's a solid player. I think that he knew. I think we were chatting about this. I think he knew that they weren't going to re-sign him, and
Yeah.
with Drue Tranquill playing how he played and probably the value that they could sign him at, they're like, well, we can get this guy at less than what you're asking, and so just wish him nothing but the best. So down there, he was a solid player for us. He showed up, won some rings. The interesting thing, I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, man, so they've got they got Tyrann Mathieu, they got Dan Sorensen.
Yeah.
Was it Colin Saunders? Didn't they sign him? Now they've got Willie Gay. They're about to. I mean, eventually they'll have the entire set. It'll be like a Ship of Theseus Chiefs defense down there.
Yep. Yeah, he's joining some former Chiefs down there. He's definitely has some friends and some familiar faces in the locker room there when he gets down to New Orleans for the Saints. He's the guy that played hard and made a lot of contributions. Wasn't a guy that anybody was going to mistake for, one like a Ray Lewis or one of these like super linebackers, but played really well. And aside from the time that he missed with the suspension there, and he kind of had the neck issue towards the end of this year and missed the AFC Championship game and was probably limited the entire postseason. He's a guy that made plays for the Chiefs and he's a guy you could count on and was solid. I think maybe you see like a Leo Chanel also kind of step up maybe and fill the shoes of a Willie Gay leaving.
Yeah.
He's a guy that really started to come on the second half of this last season and the playoffs, and he was one of the highest. I know it's PFF graded, so take that for what it's worth. But on the name there, but it's a guy that was one of the highest graded players in the Super Bowl. Guy plays tough, plays hard, super physical, super athlete. Never forget the video of him scaling the double-decker bus in the Super Bowl parade last year. Just jumped up and grabbed the top of that bus, man, like pulled himself up. Man, what a freak that guy is. But he's learning and starting to feel a little bit more familiar and comfortable in the defense, it looks like. And so I think you look at maybe like a Drue Tranquill and a Leo Chanel come along and fill those shoes so you don't have to pay that 1 year, $5 million at linebacker. You can get a value there. So, best wishes and luck to Willie Gay as long as
can't keep everybody though.
As long as he doesn't play, as long as the Chiefs don't play like the Saints in the Super Bowl next year, or something like that, then obviously wouldn't be rooting too much for Willie Gay. But Tommy Townsend, I think we talked about him last week, didn't we? Or was that after the show where it showed that he went to the Houston Texans?
We didn't talk about it last week, no.
Gets 2 years. I think he got $6 or $8 million, which is pretty good money for a punter. Chiefs, the writing was on the wall with that when they signed Matt Ariza off the street there. The guy that's going to come in and play for cheap. And when you've got Chris Jones and when you got Patrick Mahomes and you got some of these other guys making big money, you can't go out and splurge and spend big money on the punter. Tommy Townsend was a popular guy. He was a fan favorite. Obviously, he had the long flowing hair that people like to talk about on social media. Seems like a nice guy, easygoing guy. Had a rough Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, as I remember. And some people point out his last punt as a Chief was the one that bounced off the foot of the 49ers guy there that really swung the momentum in that game.
Got us back in, man.
Got us back in. Tommy Townsend, Nick, I know he's a punter, but he's a guy that was pretty well liked in Chiefs Kingdom, and he's heading down to the Houston Texans, who might be a team that the Chiefs squaring off with and battling maybe in the postseason. They had a really good year last year. That quarterback, C.J. Stroud, had an awesome rookie year, especially for a quarterback. But what do you think about Tommy Townsend moving on?
Well, first of all, he's not just a punter. I mean, that guy, dude. I know we got the punt god, but that's yet to be seen. We've seen Tommy Townsend nail over 50-yard fair catches, which is
That's
pretty
true.
incredible, right? So he's a top tier punter. It's just when you're in a dynasty mode and you're paying Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones, you can't afford a top tier punter, and that's unfortunate. But the guy, I mean, he was really good for us. I know that he had that rough Tampa Bay Super Bowl. Like a lot of people had a rough Tampa Bay Super Bowl, unfortunately, because we got our asses kicked in that game. But he was a good player for us. He had some pretty good fake punts that he converted, right? So he had some cool plays, and he not only that, but his holds, right? Especially his hold on that kick in the Super Bowl. It was a high snap. I mean, he did a lot of great things for our team. I'm gonna miss him, but it's expected. We saw that as soon as, like you said, as soon as we saw that we signed Matt Araiza, that Tommy Townsend was probably gonna be gone. I think most people that are in the know, as soon as he got Drew Rosenhaus for his agent, we knew we weren't going to be affording no Tommy Townsend going forward. So glad he got paid. Look, the guy's won multiple Super Bowls now, so he's got his rings, and now he can set up his family and himself, better for his financial future than he could here. So no hate, wish him well, But we've got to move on. So.
Yep. Wish him well as long as he doesn't play the Chiefs. As long as he doesn't come to Arrowhead playoffs or something like that. But with Houston Texans, they got to be the favorite in that division next year, right, to win the division.
They're going crazy in free agency.
They're signing guys left and right. So they're
having a good rookie quarterback, is like steroids for your team.
Right. Yeah, you get that. You get yourself a Pro Bowl or All Pro, quarterback, top tier, top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterback in the NFL on a rookie deal. Making that cheap money makes life a lot easier on the general managers, and you can go out and you get these free agents, and that's kind of what was really so impressive about a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He won the Super Bowl when he was on the cheap rookie deal. He's won the Super Bowl when he was making $50 million a year. You look at teams like the Chargers and Justin Herbert have to pay him, and what's going on with the Bills and Josh Allen, now they've had to pay him. Obviously never even got a Super Bowl with them on the cheap deals, and now it's even harder that they're on these blockbuster mega deals. I don't know. We missed anybody on the Chiefs? I think we covered just about everybody. The big names coming and going.
Yeah, I think so.
Some other NFL free agent moves. The Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons thing to me was interesting. They paid a lot of money for Kirk Cousins, a guy that I don't know how much of it the blame you put on his shoulders there in Minnesota, but did they even win a playoff game with him? Maybe 1 or 2. I mean,
I don't think so.
I mean, he's getting older. The Falcons, I mean, are they? I don't know. Did they make a mistake? Did they pay too much for Kirk Cousins down there?
I mean, too much. Like Daniel Jones got a 4-year, $160 million contract.
Too much money for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he got 4 years, $180 million. I don't know that it's too much. I guess based on the market, but a study needs to be done on Kirk Cousins and how he's made the amount of money that he's made in the NFL. I mean, it's just incredible. He's turned, just above mediocre performance as a career into, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's really crazy to see. He's super smart guy, really nice, likable person. But I don't know. We did this as an organization for years and years and years. There was some guy that was available that was like pretty good, and the Chiefs were like, well, let's just get that quarterback. Now that we have, and I understand that you're not going to draft a Patrick Mahomes like every year, right? That's like a generational guy, right? But once you see what it's like to have one of those top 5 quarterbacks on your team, like, don't you just look at an organization that's giving Kirk Cousins that kind of money and think they're just like mailing it in? They're not, that they're like, it's not, doesn't seem like you're seriously trying to win if that's what your move is. That's all I think, right? Like, you should just be drafting a quarterback until you get a guy that's really good, and then like just keep drafting quarterbacks. I mean, that's what the Texans are like. Hey, well, we got a good quarterback finally, right? You just got to keep going for that position until you get somebody that is a top talent, or else you really don't have that much of a chance, in my opinion.
That was the fatal flaw with the Scott Pioli era.
Yeah, Matt Castle, right?
They brought in Matt Castle, and they said, "Oh, well, we're good at quarterback. What are we going to work on these other areas now?" And they rolled with the guy, and they never really seriously drafted a replacement or any competition for him higher in the draft. You know, it's just, man, and you put yourself in this NFL purgatory where you get these quarterbacks that are good but not good enough, and you're borderline playoff team, and you know, one year you might make it in, and then the next year you're out, and you're winning anywhere from 8 to 10 games a year, and so you're never really a serious contender come playoff time, but you're also never bad enough to where you're getting to pick down low enough or high enough in the draft,
right,
to go after and try to get a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow type of guy, right? Yeah, I thought they overpaid for him, but it's one of those things where I think they delude themselves into thinking that, like, oh, well, Kirk Cousins, that's going to be the guy that put this over the top. You know, Minnesota didn't know what they were doing. In Minnesota, they had problems with their defense, and their coach I did not think was very good up until they got this newer guy. I think the newer guy probably also maybe saw the Kirk Cousins thing and was like, he's good, but he's just not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So I think that really probably had a lot to do with Kirk moving on. These teams, I guess, think that, well, he'll come here and it'll be different for us. Interesting to see. I mean, the guy will throw for a lot of yards, but when it comes down to it, he's going to check down on 4th down with the playoff, like short of the sticks with the game on the line, or he's going to slide too early.
Get sacked, get sacked and not throw on a Hail Mary play, right? Take a sack against the Chiefs. I don't know. I that's how I feel about it. I just feel like if I was a fan of that team, it's like we're not serious about winning a Super Bowl or contending for a Super Bowl if that's the move.
Yeah. Looks like we got a Mango in here, anonymous. Good to see you.
Mango, what's up?
Hollywood Brown and Pat Mahomes followed each other on Instagram. I did not see that today. Our man Mango,
the whispers.
Our lady Mango. I guess I shouldn't assume that's our man Mango. Mango down here, giving us some breaking news here, or some info that we didn't know about. Appreciate that. Welcome to the show. Make sure you click like or subscribe if you would, please. Hollywood Brown is a guy that was a little underwhelming in Baltimore. Can make some flash plays here and there, but was never like a consistent threat. No one's going to mistake him for one of the top receivers in the league. A guy like Patrick Mahomes can make a world of difference for a guy like that. I mean, what do you think about maybe a Chiefs getting a Hollywood Brown? Is that a guy you think is someone the Chiefs should be looking for, or is it someone you think they could bring in cheap and maybe overproduce for what you could get?
I think that's exactly the tier of receiver that we should be targeting. It's something that we can afford. you saw what this team and organization and coaching staff could do with lower tier receivers.
Yeah.
So we need somebody that we could put opposite Rashee Rice and out there with Travis Kelce that can, be a legitimate threat to pull some of those defenders off of those double teams. And I think Hollywood Brown would be great. He wasn't lighting the league on fire, but I mean, it's no secret that Lamar Jackson isn't, the league's best passer, right? He's an electric dynamic player. He's great. He's a multiple MVP winner. He went to the AFC Championship game, but he's not going to be confused with Mahomes or Allen or Burrow with his passing. And so I think that that's a great signing for the Chiefs if they could, make it work. And I've seen those rumors, I've been waiting. I've been checking my phone, but it hasn't happened yet. So
yeah. Kathy's bringing up another interesting name here for the Chiefs, Curtis Samuel. My Dynasty Fantasy Football League would love to have Curtis Samuel on the Chiefs. I might have a little bit more.
That's what it's all about. Your fantasy team.
That's what it's all about. I might have a little bit more than just the normal interest in a Curtis Samuel. Dude is a talented player with a pretty, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, wide skill set. He can run the ball out of the backfield. He can kind of play in the slot there. I mean, he's a dynamic guy. Not anybody that someone's going to mistake for a Justin Jefferson or a Tyreek Hill or somebody, but
yeah,
maybe a tier down from there. And another guy that maybe comes to the Chiefs with Andy Reid's offense and the creativity and Patrick Mahomes at quarterback could maybe even, take his game to another level and give the Chiefs a little bit of another threat. Curtis Samuel reminds me kind of a lot of like Rashee Rice almost. I mean, Rashee Rice don't really run the ball, but they need to find somebody to complement Rashee Rice. And, a guy like Hollywood Brown or a Curtis Samuel could definitely fill that role. Chiefs also could be looking in the draft for a wide receiver. Picking at the end of the draft, no one's going to complain because you won the Super Bowl, but it's really hard to get one of these like top tier wide receivers. Usually the top 6 or 8 guys or more are gone by the time you get to the bottom of the first round. We talked about the Chiefs and Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas, blazing speed, NFL Combine record 40-yard dash, which to me screams Raiders going to draft that guy in the first round. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Chiefs bringing in a wide receiver. I think that if you're the Chiefs, you almost got to like draft and bring in a guy as a free agent at wide receiver position. I mean, you agree with me, Nick? You think that's a wise way for them to go or way they need to go?
Yeah, 100% agree because
throw numbers at it.
Yeah, the numbers breed competition, but the other side of that is bringing in somebody. We know that rookies, even somebody as good as Rice, we know rookies do not see the field, like they're not going to be an instant impact player, next year. But if we bring an established person that has experience in the NFL, we know that they can have that type of impact in an Andy Reid offense. And so I think that, that's a reason that you would want to, do that aside from the numbers game is we need somebody that can walk in, week 1, week 2 and have an impact. And rookies just typically don't do that with Andy Reid's teams. So,
yeah. It's good to see our man Chris Daly checking in from Chicago, Illinois. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Always love to see our man Chris here in the chat and CKL.
Laney, if you want to get a CKL tattoo, we could probably fund that for you.
So I'll pay for it.
Pay for it. So
as long as I get the video, I'm doing it. Yeah, that's I saw John C. I think it was John C. here in the chat just not too long ago posted Calvin Ridley's off the board. I thought he was a guy that was going to get a pretty good payday, so I never really thought he was in play for the Chiefs. He's a pretty talented guy, a guy that put up some eye-popping numbers in Atlanta, and obviously missed the year with the suspension. It was a little bit of a disappointment, I felt, with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. I was expecting bigger things out of him. He goes to the Tennessee Titans, who trade A.J. Brown and then, like, a year or two later, pay big money to Calvin Ridley. Not really sure that organization knows what they're doing, but hey, I mean, more power to them. They got rid of their coach too, right? Mike Vrabel
And Derrick Henry.
gone, and Derrick Henry. King Henry goes to the Ravens. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so they can hand him the ball 3 times in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. I mean, 4 years younger, Derrick Henry couldn't get it done against the Chiefs in the playoffs. I don't know what the Ravens are thinking they're going to do with him against the Chiefs, but he could be kind of scary, though, with that run system and that line and with the way the Ravens run the ball. But I'm not worried about
he's like 62 years old in running back years.
Right. He's kind of an outlier, though, as far as production and top body. I mean, he's not a small guy, right? I mean, he's a big dude. And so he could probably have a few more miles on him than your average running back and still be a top tier player at that position. But Father Time's undefeated. And another year older for Derrick Henry. Doesn't really scare me a whole lot going to the Ravens. Keon Coleman, John Seave, Florida State. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with those guys, to be honest with you. I haven't really seen a whole lot of tape or anything on them, but I've heard people talk about them. They're speedsters. They're fast. Florida State is a legit college program, and they got good players, so there could be definitely guys to keep an eye on. Yeah, you're right, Laney. Well, they've shut down Derrick Henry before. To me, they're gotta. I mean, they're not going to move on from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I think the Ravens kind of hit their ceiling this year, honestly, right? And it still wasn't high enough to get past the Chiefs in one of their more down years. So, JW 6'7", 235. That's a big man. That's a big, tall, strong wide receiver. So I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. I think they probably go wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, whether they pick a guy there 32. Maybe with the cap situation, they package some picks to try to move up and get a more well-known prospect or one of the upper tier prospects in the draft at wide receiver. I could see them doing that. I don't know that they have a whole lot of room to move with the cap and with signing a whole lot of new guys, but they've also had pretty good amount of guys that have moved on that they got to try to fill. Guys like Jarrett McKinnon and Mike Dana, and I saw Blake Bell. A lot of these guys, I don't know that you'll see those folks back or not, but
yeah, they got to get that CEH contract worked out.
Right. Got to get CEH re-upped. You think there's any way CEH comes back next year?
Not when they can get running backs in the 7th round like Isaiah Pacheco, right?
Yeah.
I know he's an outlier, but middle to late round picks, you can find running backs. I unless he's willing to come back for league minimum. Right.
There was that post going out there. It was from someone at CBS Sports about they thought the Chiefs were the favorites to get Austin Eckler at running back. He's kind of had the injury bug last year or two. When healthy, a hell of a player, and a guy that has a nose for the end zone, scores a lot of touchdowns. So that would be an interesting fit, maybe like for an Andy Reid, right? I mean, he likes those guys that are pass catching running backs, which Austin Eckler definitely would fit that role. But Austin Eckler's going to have to take a hell of a pay cut, a team-friendly deal to join the Chiefs. And maybe he does. Maybe he wants a ring. Maybe he's dealt with the injuries and sees himself as closer to the end than the beginning of his career and wants to take a team-friendly deal and get a payday. And maybe Drue Tranquill's ringing his phone too, trying to do some recruiting for the Chiefs. But lots of free agency to go. We got the draft coming up here in a few weeks, which I believe is in Detroit this year. Is that correct?
I don't know. Let's see.
Kathy's asking about a tight end in the draft. I don't know. I've seen people say that they like Ben Sinnott. I'm struggling to remember how you pronounce his name, from K-State. Might be a guy available where the Chiefs could pick up at some point. They signed Irv Smith, didn't they?
Yeah, Detroit, Michigan. You're right. Sorry.
Yep. The NFL draft in Detroit. So I do believe the Chiefs brought Irv Smith in, who's a guy that, if you play fantasy football, has been a frustrating guy. He's a fairly highly regarded draft pick. Went to the started his career with the Vikings, kind of underperformed, struggled there to catch on. Went to the Bengals, kind of more of the same there. But you give him a Patrick Mahomes, and maybe that's the secret sauce for a guy like that. So I don't know. Tight ends, to me, every year there's like one, right? It's
Right.
like the can't miss prospect, and they usually go earlier than 32 in the draft. So I think you're going to see a Travis Kelce come back next year healthier. Could always deal with injury again, but that's not been the norm for his career. So I think you see Kelce back. Do you think Travis Kelce looks at these contracts guys like Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes are getting, and is like what?
I think that's exactly what he's doing. He's set himself up for success with New Heights. I mean, he's making how much money with New Heights? Then he was in as many or more commercials as Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And then he's also, dating a billionaire superstar. So, yeah, probably. But I think that he's said it publicly. I know that I could make more money, but I think that he is one of those people that like truly is more about being in a good situation and being loyal, especially to Andy Reid for taking him and giving him a chance when others wouldn't.
Right.
And I think that that's meant like a lot to him. And I think he's provided, he's made money. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think that he's made less money than he could have because of all of those things.
No, Andy Reid's contract does not count towards the salary cap. That's players only. So to answer Laney's question, I must have missed that earlier. Sorry, Laney, didn't see it come across there. But yeah, this is a fun time of year watching all these free agents and these guys get big paydays around the league, and the Chiefs.
What did you think about the Steelers signing Russell Wilson?
I mean, they not watch him in Denver the last couple of seasons.
Talk about not trying, right?
Right. To me, the Steelers, they've been in that NFL purgatory since Big Ben left. Decent quarterbacks are good enough to get you maybe that 7 seed and then get waxed against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Never drafted high enough to go out and try to find that next Big Ben. But also never really good enough to be a serious threat to return to the Super Bowl or let alone win it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What did you think about it?
You ever put like a couch or something out on the curb for a big trash pickup, and then you see someone that like threw it in their truck or like put it on top of their car and drove off with it?
And you're like thank God.
says, yeah. And look, I think I've been that person that's picked up stuff that I'm like, well, I mean, I need that for wherever in my house. Not like when I was, 21 or 22 or something, but like it says a lot more about the situation of the person that's picking it up than it says about the quality of the item that's on the curb.
Right.
And I feel that exact same way about the Russell Wilson going to the Steelers. I mean, it just says a lot more about where the Steelers are as an organization than it does about, whether or not Russell Wilson's going to be good. I mean, because we know what we're going to get with him. He's a weird dude, and he hasn't performed now for 3 full seasons.
Right.
It's wild that anybody's signing him, but
right. Yeah, Broncos, they traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. I was kind of hoping maybe Nico would stick around long enough to get to that. I'd like to get his thoughts on that move. Guy that underperformed was an elite wide receiver at Alabama, college football player, was a highly, highly, highly touted prospect coming out of college. First round draft pick, struggled to produce in Denver. Goes and matches up with Amari Cooper and David Njoku in a fairly potent offense there in Cleveland. So the Broncos are in full breakdown. I mean, fire sale tank mode for this next coming year. So don't really see them being much of a threat. And they're unloading guys there, at least Justin Simmons, the safety. And they're the tank is on Denver. They're not going to find themselves in football purgatory.
right.
They're going to be bad. And they are kind of licking their wounds. And if you're familiar with who Brandon Perna is on the popular channel, That's Good Sports.
Hilarious. You should check it out if you hadn't seen it.
He was talking about the Broncos and their rebuild, and I was thinking, well, Patrick Mahomes has got another minimum 10 to 12 years of being really, really, really good. So take your time on that rebuild because you got a lot of work to do. Yeah, I don't know it. The Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, they're in hell, cap hell. Nick, you mentioned that. They're having to let guys go. I think they have a down year. The Raiders are the Raiders. So
Offseason looking up in Chiefs Kingdom.
Offseason is looking good for the Chiefs. I mean, you go back-to-back Super Bowls, and you're looking like the only team in your division that is going to be a serious contender and a serious team that's in good position. Just really speaks to how great of a job the front office has done, and the scouting and the general manager, right? And bringing guys in and managing the cap and making wise moves and maybe being a little shrewd at times, but getting the job done and getting back-to-back Super Bowls and still lapping the division and the field there. So it's really, really good time to be in Chiefs Kingdom. I think we're probably going to get on out of here unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, Nick.
Nope. Off season, a little bit shorter episodes for us. Not as much content. So
right. And our man Bo, I failed to mention at the beginning that our man Bo should be back next week. He's been doing some traveling and had a situation today that he was unable to join us. But we expect our man Bo, Big Bad Bo, to be back next week. There'll be more free agent news to talk about. Maybe I'll look at some of these guys that John C. and maybe Kathy was looking at tight ends and asked about tight ends. Do some homework on that, and maybe we can look at some start looking ahead to the draft. That's what, April something, right? Not too far away.
the Chris Jones watches, John.
Yep. Appreciate that. It's good to see everybody in the chat. Make sure, if you haven't clicked like and subscribe already, do that for us. We would be forever grateful for the help. We hope you all enjoy the show. We really enjoy doing this every week, and the more the merrier, and the more viewers and the livelier the chat, the better the show is. We'll be back next Wednesday at 8 o'clock and talk more free agency, maybe look ahead to the draft and maybe start getting into that a little bit. Until then, let's go Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.